Thank you very much for joining us and a warm welcome to the morning call. We begin with the Central African Republic, CAR, where more than 100 attacks and murders have been recorded to date in the country against humanitarian workers. This is according to Humanitarian Aid Coordinator for the country, Denise Brown. The situation Brown described as unacceptable after her first field visit around some cities with humanitarian workers in the country.
Almost 6 months after the Khartoum peace agreement between the Central African government and the rebel groups was signed, yet the situation remains fragile. Violations of human rights and international humanitarian law persist in the country, according to the UN. This situation has not spared the humanitarian organizations. We asked Denise Brown, coordinator of an NGO in Bangui, how they are surviving the political instability. The humanitarian community very often remains the target of armed groups, with more than 100 humanitarian workers having been attacked and even murdered. How do you view this situation? Absolutely, the work in CAR is extremely important. We support the Central African population living through the effects of the years of crisis. On the humanitarian side, we expect the work to be difficult. We do not expect it to be easy. But it's true that we have seen an increase in the intensity of crimes by armed groups targeting NGOs in particular, and also the Central African population. This year, we have documented 130 cases of attacks against NGOs, with 3 cases of murders of people who are delivering assistance to the Central African population. So it is completely unacceptable that someone should come from abroad to help the Central African people at the request of the government, because they recognize the difficult situation of the population. And these people are completely neutral and impartial and want to help those in suffering. But yet they're being targeted. Their vehicles are being stolen, offices are being robbed, and 3/4 of the people have been killed. This is unacceptable.
À la demande du gouvernement, parce qu'ils reconnaissent la situation difficile de la population, et qu'ensuite ces personnes qui sont complètement neutres, impartiales, veulent aider ceux qui souffrent, et en conséquence, ils sont ciblés. Et soit des véhicules volés, des maisons, des bureaux cambriolés, et dans 3 cas, des personnes tuées. C'est inadmissible.
After taking up your duties for 4 months, 4 months ago in the country, you are returning from a tour of certain cities in the CAR. So what are you going to remember from this tour? What was the takeaway from, what was the findings from some of the places you visited?
I don't have just a single observation. It's true, I've traveled a lot. I'm learning and, above all, listening. In the southeast, whether Obo, Zemio, Alindao, or even Bria, we see a really difficult situation on a daily basis for families. A mother gets up and doesn't know what food to make for the children, and she would pick the cassava leaves. There are mothers that have 6 children, but there's no hospital, or the hospital has no doctors, or there's no medicine because these places are isolated. I have seen it with my own eyes. For months, women who look for these leaves to make some kind of porridge for the child, but we don't know of its effects. We see all this and we try with humanitarian aid to relieve it while waiting for the development actions that will come with stability. But that will take time. You have worked in countries where there's an Ebola epidemic. The Central African Republic is reported at risk by WHO because of its neighbors with the DRC. What advice would you give to the authorities? I'm not proposing a solution to Ebola. I will simply say that I worked in West Africa in 2014 in the 3 countries affected by Ebola. It is an extremely trying experience, and therefore with the Minister of Health, who is really involved in this issue, because CAR has been classified as high risk by the Global Health Organization, we need to prepare the population, especially where the entry points to the DRC are. So we need to prepare the population on possible cases to understand what they are, and so they can identify cases and know how to deal with it. The humanitarian community is committed to this issue. We will support the Minister of Health and the World Health Organization. We have a series of working meetings, and we must have a plan. We must assume at the top that we will have at least a case, and we must be ready.